Okay, you know what? Screw it. I don't know when the next Bleach chapter's coming out. If anybody out there knows, please let me know, because that'd be swell. Because I've been sitting at my computer for like the past 4 or 5 days, and I'm like, come on, Kubo, give me something. I haven't made a video in like forever. I mean, can something please happen in the anime or manga community that falls in my purview of expertise, please? No? Okay, I guess I have to just pull something out of my hat. Yeah, I have a top hat now. Top hats are cool. Like, okay, Unohana and Kenpachi sex scene. No. God, no. Naruto meets Bleach. Already did it. Topic on the Zero Squad. Okay, fine, fuck it, we can do it. Zero Squad discussion! Yeah, guys, remember the Zero Squad? That awesome group elite team of Soul Reapers set to guard the Soul King himself? The strongest out of every single Shinigami that ever existed, which may be like possible exceptions of like Yamamotto and of course the higher tier, but other than them, they are clearly in a class all their own. Why don't we talk about them that much anymore? You know, it's really weird. You know, I receive messages over Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, every single day asking me, Tekking, what do you think's gonna happen with this character? Tekking, what do you think's gonna happen with this character? And yeah, sure enough, when the Zero Squad was first revealed back in 5.16, I got a shit ton of messages like, oh, who do you think that is? Who do you think that is? Who do you think that's gonna do? But over the months and even possibly years now since that chapter was released, I've been getting fewer and fewer messages exactly like what the Zero Squad pertains to, what's going to happen with them. And it seems like the fandom's not maybe completely lost interest in them, but just kind of diminished in interest ever since they were revealed. So, a little bit of background first. The Zero Squad, or the Zero Division, or Squad Zero, however you want to, whatever translation you're reading, was originally mentioned in chapter 5, well actually it was -108 in the first chapter of Turn Back the Pendulum, way back in December of 2008. That was back when I was I was a sophomore in high school. I wasn't even reading Bleach on a weekly basis. Like, I wasn't even reading it on the manga scanlation sites. I was just like, at that point, I think I was just still watching the anime. But yeah, so it was first revealed by Shunsui, who was talking about Kiryu Hikefuni during the Turn Back the Pendulum. He's like, oh yeah, she was promoted. And I think it was, I forget, it was either, one of the vice captains at the time was like, oh, well, promoted from a captain? Well, I guess she was a member of Central 46. I'm like, no, even higher, the Zero Division. And everyone's freaking out, because we always had kind of a suspicion that there was like a higher tier of people just simply beyond, a regular captain, like kind of like the Kais and Kais and Naruto. I'm gonna get bitch slap for that one. Kais in Dragon Ball Z, how we go with the regular standard Kais, like King Kai, and then Grand Kai, and then Supreme Kai, and then the Ultimate Mega Uber Supreme Kai. He has a machine gun for a hand. Anyway, so, I was thinking like, alright, so Zero Squad, that's pretty cool, and of course, even though they were mentioning in that chapter, we're not going to find out about them for a long time. But then all of a sudden, Kubo's like, okay, so we're doing the last arc. It's going to be the final year Holy War arc, last arc in Bleach. And everyone pretty much assumed, like, okay, last arc in Bleach, we're going to finally see what the Zero Squad looks like. And through the entire war, the first invasion with the Quincy's, when I'm up here doing reviews, I'm like, okay, the entire Seirei is getting bombed to shit. Where the hell's this elite squadron of Shinigami gonna descend from on high? Maybe like an awesome golden doorway just opens up in the sky and they come riding out like archangels and chariots and wielding spears, bows taut, ready for battle. None of that happened. Juha ended up having to retreat because he was expecting the Zero Squad to show up, but they didn't show up until much after the battle occurred. And, originally we were a little bit pissed off by that. Like, the entire Seirei got destroyed and they didn't even show up. They didn't really seem to care. And then the Zero Squad finally shows up in chapter 5.16 and they looked like this. Yeah. I don't know what anyone was expecting from Zero Squad. Personally, I was looking towards something like this. Fuck yeah! But no, we got these people. And, I don't judge a book by its cover normally, but when you think elite soldiers of the Seirei, do you really think a guy with the pompadour that would make Kuwabara commit seppuku from jealousy? Or a guy that's like a 70s rocker dude? Or bald Mr. T? I don't really think that's the first conclusion you jump to. But hey, once again, don't judge a book by its cover. I'm like, okay. We'll see what they're capable of. Alright, so how do you become a member of the Zero Squad? Well, you have to contribute to the Seirete or the Soul Society culture in some way. You have to come up with some insane invention that is greatly, basically your national treasure, essentially. Like, you created something that the Seirete will be able to use for, centuries to come, and it's just insanely useful for everyday life. So, first we have Renji. He was the one that invented, we have no idea. We can assume maybe he worked a little bit with the healing method, and that's why he got admitted into the Seirete, into the Soul Palace, but we don't really know exactly how his methods really transmitted into everyday current practice in the Soul Society. Maybe he invented healing keto. I'm going to go with that, because his method of healing isn't exactly like healing keto, but he did stay to Urahana like, oh, well, I taught you everything about healing, I taught you all my methods, so we're to assume maybe in some way or form he modified the keto in order to heal people rather than just have destructive or restraining abilities. So, okay, that's alright with him. Then we have Kiryu Hikifune, the former captain of Squad 12. She is also the only person in the entire Zero Squad that we know which division she was in before becoming a member of the Zero Squad. We had a little bit of hints with Shutara, but we don't really know exactly adamantly. The only person we know for sure is Kiryu Hikifune. She was captain of Squad 12 before Kisuke Urahara was back in Turn Back the Pendulum when he got admitted. So, Kiryu Hikifune is the grain goddess, or the goddess of food, essentially. She's basically the god of cooking, I was calling her. So yeah, Froze for, from Toriko, basically. So, Kiryu Hikifune's major invention, though, while she was a member of the 12th Division, was the creation of artificial souls. Those soul candy things that the Shinigami are always popping in, and, they give a substitute body so the Shinigami can go out and do things, while the regular body is just can hang back and not be like a motionless corpse on the ground, So that was really an important invention, because this would, this would enable Shinigami to stay undercover in the world of the living without necessarily being in their Shinigami form. So it's very useful that they invented that. And I guess also through that, she also kind of invented the mod souls, because they go hand in hand, because mod souls were basically modified Gigai in a sense, so, or modified souls. So in a sense, I guess she also laid the groundwork for that later on. So then we have Nimayo Otso, the god of the sword. Oh yeah. Gnarly, bro. So basically, he invented Zanpaktou, and he's like the only, so far, this discovery is the thing that's the hugest, because you immediately think Shinigami, you think badass swords that can transform and shoot fire and ice and turn into giant hammers and crush people. We haven't seen that yet, but I'm waiting for it. So, the creation of the Zanpaktou, really awesome dude. Therefore, he must be one of the most dignified and strictly regimented members of the Zero Squad. Ha! I couldn't finish that sentence with a straight face. No, he's kind of, in all regards, he's very eccentric. He's very, he doesn't really like to just explain to you what you're supposed to do. He just kind of figure it out for yourself kind of mentality. He's like, yeah, Ichigo, Renji, I'm just going to kick you down in this pit, and you have to fight against these Alsauchi down there. Okay, what are they going to do? Oh, you just fight them. You just fight them, and if you win, you go on to the next part. If you die, well, you gotta, kind of send you back into the human world and do a bunch of circle jerks with your past. But, I'm not going to tell you that, though. You just got to figure it out for yourself. So, he's indirect at times, but his methods are clearly professional. The creation of a Zanpaktou is, of course, something that is very useful to the Shinigami, of course, and Ichigo finally discovering exactly how his work was something that was attributed directly from his teaching. So probably the most important member of the Zero Squad that we've been revealed their entire backstory so far. At least he's probably the one we know most about, because we stayed on Nimaya for the longest. The other two members of the Zero Squad that Ichigo and Renji visited, we only got to see from maybe one chapter, 1.5 at most. Nimaya we stayed on for a good 10 or 15, so we know most about him. Next up is Senjumaru Shutara. Senjumaru Shutara was the other Shinigami that I mentioned. We kind of maybe know which division she was from, because she kind of alluded to Mayuri that she was able to gain access to the 12th Division because security has become much more lax since the time she was a member of the division, or from the time she was there. She didn't exactly say she was captain. She didn't really even say she was part of the division. She says, since my time. So I'm assuming either she was also captain of 12th Division at some point, maybe before Kiryu. Another clue to this is that there's kind of a Richter scale looking thing in the 12th Division that they use to measure Ryatsu, kind of like they do with the Richter scale to measure earthquakes. And the scale is named the Shutara scale, or the Sutra scale, which is named after her. So yeah, I'm thinking she had to be a member of the 12th Division. I don't really want to say there's 2 former members of the 12th Division in the Zero Squad, but hey, if that's how it's going to go. I mean, the 12th Division is the one that's always coming up with new, the research division. I mean, it was coming up with these new inventions and everything. I don't think it was the research division before Kiryu, but maybe Kiryu and Shutara were in the same time. Maybe they were doing something there. I don't know. I hope we find out later, though. And finally, we have Ichibe, the eyeball monk. We also don't know which division he was from, and we don't even really know exactly what invention he came up with to the Soul Society. Same thing with Shutara. We don't really know what she invented either. All we know is he's kind of like the de facto leader. He's kind of the one that's always like spearheading whenever the Zero Squad comes down. He's like always out in front. So maybe he's the first member. There's been a long list of speculation exactly what he invented. Maybe he invented the Bankai. He invented Keto. Because that's my idea. Because you figure, out of all the inventions in the Soul Society that we're aware of, you think one of the Zero Squad members had to come up or at least lay the groundwork for Keto. So I'm going to say either Shutara or Ichibe was Keto. Bankai, I think, is something more suited to mean Maya's group than maybe just, it kind of came up with it, maybe not at the same time as the Zanpaktou, but just maybe an eventual progression or upgrade of the Zanpaktou. But yeah, so that's the Zero Squad basically in a nutshell, exactly all the stuff we know about them at this point in the story. Now, this is going to the speculation part of what I think is going to happen with them, because we all assumed at first that the Zero Squad is going to join the next battle with the Quincy's. They're going to be, they're going to lead the charge, or maybe not necessarily lead the charge, but they're going to show up at some point, and they're going to fight against those Quincy bastards. Here's the thing, now that we've kind of seen what they're doing and kind of had about 20 or 30 chapters to really soak it in and see what they're really doing up there in the Soul Palace, how they're training, Renji, Ruki, and Ichigo, and I guess eventually Byakuya. I don't really necessarily believe they're going to join the fight. I think the Zero Squad, the whole purpose of them originally that Kubo intended was to become teachers or mentors, because who better to learn from than the highest tier you could possibly get from the Soul Society. Basically, it's like when Goku's training with Roshi, and okay, you're training with Roshi, and then you eventually train with gods, essentially. You just natural progression. Eventually, you can't get higher than your masterful teacher is basically a god. So, I mean, I know that sounds weird to some people, oh, okay, the Zero Squad, we've known about them for years and they're not even going to fight. I'm not necessarily going to say they're not going to fight, but I don't think they're going to fight unless the fight is brought to them. Unless Juha Bach was to just threaten the Soul Palace or the Soul King in some way, which might happen. We don't know what's going to happen yet. I mean, Aizen is still around somewhere. You don't know where he's going to show back up. So, I mean, we don't know. We just don't. But I'm just going to say that they're not going to come down to the Soul Society and just fight the Quincy's just to have oh yeah, we're all looking good time. Let's beat the shit out of these Sternritters. Because that's not their job. Renji said it best. Whenever they first brought down to the Soul Society, whenever they stepped out and we got to see the Zero Squad for the first time, Soifone is just where the fuck were you for the past, 2 days? We got our asses handed to us. You're up there leisurely just hanging out, sipping some tea or something. We're down here getting our asses kicked. Freaking, Izuru got killed. Byakuya got shredded with his own Bankai. And Renji just, he just flash steps behind Soifone, which that's another thing Renji's known for, basically the most advanced flash step ever conceived of. So he shows up behind Soifone, and he's just our job is not to protect the Soul Society. That is your job. Our job is to protect the Soul Palace and the Soul King. That is our only task, and you have it down here. I mean, basically it's like if the city of Washington, D.C. was attacked, and then the police officers after the attack go up to the Secret Service, and then the police officers are just Secret Service, what the hell? We were getting creamed out here. Secret Service is just dude, our job is to protect the president, and that's what we did. Your job is to defend the rest of the city. Okay, we're not going to leave our posts to protect the president to defend your ass, because this is the more higher priority here. Kind of the same thing. Having the Zero Squad leave the Soul Palace for longer than just a couple of minutes when they went. Because remember, when they left the Soul Palace the first time to pick up Ichigo and the group, they were only gone for maybe an hour maximum. They crashed down, grabbed everybody that they needed, went right back up. They can't stay away from that place for very long because that's where the Soul King is. That's the whole point of their existence, is to protect the Soul King. So they're not going to come down to the Soul Palace from the Soul Palace for just any trivial reason, other than short of every other Shinigami getting defeated roundly and having nobody else, they might show up. But other than that, I don't see that happening. You know, maybe one or two might leave, but they have to have at least a few up there to protect the Soul King at any given time. That's just how it has to go. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Soul King, because, yeah, he's always fun to speculate about. You know, it's speculation that he's going to be the last villain in Bleach, that he is going to basically, like, hand his title of Soul King over to Ichigo eventually, that he is really, like, evil, that there's, like, his connection with Aizen, because his appearance very looks similar to how, like, Aizen looked when he fused with the Hogyoku. So much speculation about this dude. Alright, well, let's just start what I originally thought was going to happen, which this still might have happened, we don't know, because Kubo did like a little time jump here. I originally assumed that we were going to see Ichigo's entire journey through the Soul Palace. We were going to see him travel through every palace, and we saw it up to number 3, to Nimai's. We didn't see him go to Shutara's, we didn't see him go to Ichibe's, and we didn't see anything beyond that. We cut right from Nimai's straight to him, like, jumping down from the Soul Palace back into the fray in the Soul Society. So, I originally assumed he was going to go to all 5 palaces, and palaces, whatever. And then after that, he was going to be invited into the court of the Soul King, and the Soul King was going to, like, reveal what his real existence is, like Ichigo Kurosaki, because I think Renji said, like, oh, the Soul King is really interested in Ichigo, and, you know, so the Soul King would want to see him. That just makes sense. So it's like, Ichigo Kurosaki, you are the chosen one, or something. I don't know what he was going to say to him, but, you know, he was going to say something, like relay some kind of information to Ichigo. And maybe he did, we don't know, because we had that little time jump. So maybe Ichigo did end up seeing the Soul King. Maybe the Soul King did tell him something important. Maybe he didn't tell anybody else. Maybe the Soul King's like, he's like, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't tell anybody else. Just keep it to yourself from now. So we have no idea. The idea of Ichigo becoming the Soul King at the end of the series, I mean, I don't like to think that, because I like to think that Ichigo at the end of the series would basically be met with either 2 decisions. Either the way two ways Kubo's going to do it is either Ichigo becoming a full-fledged Shinigami, maybe a captain, and then living out his days in the Soul Society with Rukia and Renji and all of his friends, or choosing just to become a human. You know, I don't see the series ending with him just staying as a substitute Shinigami the rest of his life. I just don't see that going on. You know, I think he has to make an ultimate choice at the end, and whatever choice that's going to be, I don't think he's going to become an omnipotent god, because in the same way, that doesn't really seem like a good way to end a shonen series to me. Like, the hero just becomes a god. I mean, the whole idea of of the series of Bleach is that there's this underdog kid who just got thrown these powers arbitrarily. He didn't really, you know, do anything. Well, he did kind of do something to deserve them, but he's not like he was a massive hero. It's not like he wanted the power. He just got it to protect his family. And up until the very end of the series, like the final arc, he's like, okay, these are all my friends that I've learned to, that I've met all these years that I really want to protect. But up until the beginning of the series, he didn't want to do this. He was just kind of thrown these powers. But yeah, ending the series with him basically becoming a god, I just don't see that happening. I'm not saying that it might not, it could, I'm just saying I personally don't see it that way. The Soul King being the final villain, I also don't really like. Just because the whole thing with Juha Bach is like laying the groundwork right now. Like, we're getting so much mythos about this dude, exactly what he's capable of. You know, he's kind of like this, you know, we had the backstory, like he was basically the one that killed Ichigo's mother, or laid the groundwork for Ichigo's mother's death. So he just seems like a much more rounded villain right now than at the end when, like, Juha's defeated and all the Quincy's are defeated, and it's like, yeah, by the way, the Soul King's the final villain. You know, like, okay, what? Like, there's not going to be an arc after this. We already know there's not going to be an arc after this. So, you know, at the very end, just, like, doing a major, like, flip switch. Like, oh, wait, Ichigo, Yuha's really not the bad guy. It's the Soul King who laid everything. Like, I just don't see that going on. I mean, maybe Kubo could do it in a good way. What are your guys' opinions? How do you think the Soul King could be portrayed as, like, the final villain in Bleach? But I don't see that. Kind of the same vein as Uehara is the final villain in Bleach. Like, I just don't see that. I mean, yeah, I mean, the fandom would freaking cream their jeans over that. Like, at the last scene, it's like Uehara is sitting there, and he's just like an evil grin on his face, and he like stabs Ichigo in the back, and he's just like, haha, it was like a 150-year plan I had to take over the Soul Palace. Like, I just don't see that happening. I see Uehara as the same way I see the Zero Squad. Maybe not as powerful, but as a mentor, as a teacher, not necessarily as a major villain at the end. That'd be like in Naruto, oh, turns out Kakashi's the main villain. Or in One Piece, oh, turns out, okay, well, I could kind of see, like, Shanks becoming the main, maybe the final battle, but not like the final villain. Like, Shanks isn't a villain, but he could be a potential battle. You know, but I don't even see that with Bleach. I don't even see, like, final battle, Ichigo versus Uehara. I don't even see that. But yeah, so that's basically like just this is basically like a discussion on the Zero Squad, so leave some opinions below, because, you know, we were so pumped about these guys for so long, and I haven't really seen much about them recently. You know, don't judge a book by its cover. I'm not saying we're not going to learn exactly what they're going to be capable of. I'm not going to say, oh, we're never going to see their Zanpaktou. We're never going to see what they're capable of. But I'm just saying we're not going to see them in the full brunt of the battle. That is for the younger generation that they taught. That is for, Ruki and Renji's group. That's for the Fullbringers when they eventually show up. That's for all the captains. That's for all the visors that have yet to show up from the world of the living. This is not a fight for them. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed. Tekking101 signing out. I hope the next Bleach chapter comes out soon, because I needed to talk about Bleach. I've been having, like, overload the past couple of days. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Tekking101 signing out.